Hello everyone and welcome back to Movie On. Today we're going to do a recap of the movie named Behaving Badly from 2014. At the beginning of the movie, we're shown a boy named Rick, who sees his mom Lucy lying unconscious on the couch. Actually, it's revealed that Rick's mother Lucy had tried to commit suicide. Along with the shocking scene of his mother lying unconscious, he also sees piles of letters lying in front of him. Now, seeing her condition, Rick immediately admits her to the hospital. Later, Rick learns of the letters. The letters were written by Lucy that said Lucy came to know about her best friend, Ms. Bender, and Rick's affair. This suggests that Lucy's unsuccessful suicide attempt was probably due to her son running an affair. Then Rick narrates how it all started, and we get to look into Rick's flashback. Apparently, Rick's mom, Lucy, is an alcoholic, and she doesn't pay any attention to her kids. And she repetitively talks about getting a divorce from Rick's dad. It's shown that Rick has a sister named Kristen who works in the club, and then we're shown Rick's dad, Joseph. It appears that both the parents are unattentive and ignorant towards their children, who couldn't care less. They also don't pay attention to their children and are always busy setting up events and parties in their children's absence. With all this, we also get to know that Rick likes a girl who is also his classmate, named Nina. Later, Rick is seen visiting Jimmy. Jimmy is the owner of the strip club where Rick's sister Kristen works. Jimmy tells Rick to call one of his dancers for him. So, to call the dancer, Rick goes to that dancer's house and asks one to come along, but the stripper he picks denies coming along with him to the strip club. She starts yelling at him and causes a big scene. Rick gets clueless, so he decides to leave the strippers alone in their strip house and goes to his friend Billy's house. Here we also see Billy's mom, Ms. Bender, who then sends her son Billy out to get some stuff, and makes sure that he gets alone time with Rick. As soon as Billy leaves the house, Ms. Bender starts coming closer to Rick, upon which he gets uncomfortable and stunned. It's shown that this was how their affair was initiated. The scene shifts to the next day, where Billy and Rick were seen talking about proposing to Nina. Just as they call dibs, Carlos comes there and he places a bet with Rick that if he makes Nina his girlfriend by any chance, then he would give him $1,000. But if Rick could not make Nina his girlfriend and failed the mission, vice versa will occur, and Rick will have to pay Carlos $1,000. Now, after hearing this, Rick, without thinking about any consequences, also agrees to the spans and places the bet. Later, it gets revealed that Carlos was the son of an underground gangster. After this, Rick sees Saint Lola in the bathroom, which is actually an imaginary friend of teenagers here. Saint Lola motivates Rick that he can impress Nina and make her a girlfriend. After a few days of placing a wrong bet with Carlos, Rick finds out that Nina has broken up with her boyfriend Kelvin. After realizing Nina is single and must be desperate to get a new boyfriend, Rick starts feeling that he can make Nina his girlfriend easily. Meanwhile, as they're studying in class, their teacher dies while delivering the lecture. This causes chaos in the whole school. Kids are told to leave the college building. On his way out of school, Rick finally talks to Nina and asks her to accompany him to the funeral of the teacher who had just passed away. Just when things were going right between Nina and Rick, Kelvin, the ex-boyfriend, reappears in front of Nina and asks some guests to accompany Rick to the funeral of the teacher. The next day, Rick is seen at his funeral's teacher, and those guests, too, are seen sitting in Rick's mom's car. Just then, Nina tells Rick that she enjoys Josh Garvin's music, and on hearing this, Rick decides to impress Nina because he personally knew Josh Garvin. In fact, he was also planning to go to his concert tomorrow. Nina gets very happy hearing this, and Nina asks him with a sweet voice if she can come to see the concert and enjoy it together. Seeing this as a golden opportunity, Rick responds to her with a yes. While Rick and Nina were planning to go see Josh's concert, someone hits their car from behind. On the way out, Rick learns that the father of the church of their town has crashed the bumper of his car into Rick's car's trunk. The father then apologizes to Rick and tells him to get his car repaired. Now, because Rick has promised to take Nina to the concert, he goes to Jimmy straight away and asks him to get tickets for the concert. So Jimmy agrees to help him, but before that, Jimmy gets to break the task of getting some drugs from his dealer. After getting his drugs, he goes to his mother, Ms. Bender, and asks her to borrow her car for Rick. On hearing Rick's name, Ms. Bender agrees to give him the car. When Rick goes to pick up the car, the following day, Ms. Bender asks Rick to take Billy along with him. Rick and Billy come to Jimmy to get tickets to the concert, but when they reach there, they find out that Jimmy has ditched them badly, and he didn't buy concert tickets. Just when Billy and Rick were left clueless and were thinking of alternatives, Nina shows up. Upon Nina's arrival, Billy's eyes lie on Rick's dad's car, which was standing in front of them the whole time. While going near the car, the boys witness Greg's dad and Billy's dad with a girl. Now, because Rick's plan to take Nina out on a concert was pathetically pooped, and he could not take Nina to the concert, he feels embarrassed while apologizing to her. With being the bigger person, Nina also forgives him. Subsequently, on the next day, when Rick goes to the school, he witnesses a new teacher who had been replaced with the previous departed one. After a short span of teaching, the new teacher mysteriously dies too. Nobody investigates why or how the teacher had died. Later that day, Rick gets a call from the mechanic who was servicing his mother's car. The mechanic tells Rick that it'll take another week to fix his car, so he lets Rick drive a very expensive car from his garage for a while. Rick gets very happy about the car and ends up having a lot of fun with Billy and Nina in the new sports car. After a day full of joy, the sun begins to set, and so does Rick's good luck. At night, Rick gets caught by the police. Actually, the reason why police had caught Rick was because they had found the dead body of the mechanic in Rick's mom's car back at the service station, and they traced Rick because he was driving the mechanic's car. This creates great confusion and causes the police to suspect Rick as the mechanic's murderer. That's why the police felt that Rick had murdered. They take him to the police station and keep him under their custody that night. On being interrogated, Rick tells the police that he went to the mechanic to get the car repaired on the given command of the town's church's father. Meanwhile, a lawyer comes there who was sent by the father of the church to help Rick at his request. Rick puts all the blame on his dad. Seeing Rick as a careless teenager, the police decide to let him go and tell Rick to be cautious next time. Things go upside down when Rick's lawyer, who was sent by the church's father, unintentionally takes drugs from Rick's car when Rick was going to drop the lawyer to his home. The lawyer gets high on drugs and becomes sexually charged. She feels attracted to Rick and attempts to come close to him and tries kissing him. Since Rick had developed feelings for Nina, he resists the lawyer's lust and does a job of a good citizen and gets the lawyer home safe. On coming back to his home, he finds that his sister Kristen has invited several of her stripper friends to the house. Seeing this, Rick gets an idea, and he tells Billy that we will open a strip club here for one night so that we can earn $1,000 to give to Carlos, because he was thinking that he would lose the bet since Nina showed no spark for him. Rick takes a moment to tell his side of the story to his sister Kristen and her stripper friends and asks them to help him. They all agree to it. Billy also calls his mom Miss Bender, but the thing is, Rick doesn't like her at all since she always tries to seduce him with her dirty methods. After a short time of arriving, Billy randomly goes out to check something, when Miss Bender makes her moves and forcefully tries to seduce Rick, but he ends up avoiding her the whole time. After a while, Billy comes back inside, and there he sees his mom doing strange things to Rick. Rick notices Billy's strange expressions and asks Billy to take his mom to another room. After this, Rick invites Jimmy to the party so that he can handle Billy's mom. After the party begins, Billy and Rick start earning very good money right away. After a while, Jimmy comes there. Rick sends him to check on Miss Bender. After this, Nina also comes there, and she comes there because she was worried about Rick after the police chase. Rick then takes Nina to his room, where they both come close, and just when they're about to kiss, Miss Bender comes there. Miss Bender senses some love in the air between Rick and Nina and purposefully ruins their moment by hinting to Nina that Rick was having a controversial affair with her. Nina acts out angry and rushes out of the room immediately. Seeing her leave, Rick tries to convince her, but things get worse when Nina learns one more thing, which was that Rick had placed a bet with Carlos to impress her and get $1,000 from him in return. She finds this extremely embarrassing and disrespectful, due to which she becomes even angrier. Meanwhile, the policeman came there because he had opened the strip club without a legal permit. Here, the police start arresting everyone. Now with all this, Nina is arrested too, which makes Rick feel extremely ashamed and bad. The next day, when he goes to the police station to meet everyone, he learns that Nina also fell in love with him that night, but now after this incident, she doesn't even want to see his face. Feeling sad, Rick gets back home, and then when he comes home, Rick gets a call from his dad, who scolds him for saying his name to the police. He tells Rick that he's in a lot of trouble because the cops are suspecting him to be the murderer of the mechanic. So whatever was happening in the movie up until now was a flashback, and now we will see the next story. Rick was now in trouble from all sides, so he went to the church to confess. There he tells the father about the affair with Ms. Bender. The father starts fighting him because he was also having an affair with Ms. Bender. This was the least expected factor that had triggered the father of the town's church. After all this, Rick is in a state of mind where he sees nothing ahead. As his mind runs out of ideas, He goes to Miss Bender's house. There he gets into an hour-long conversation with her. He gets agitated, yet stays respectful towards Bender, and then makes her promise that she'll not flirt with him or seduce him ever again. Getting on good terms with Miss Bender makes Rick feel that perhaps he could fix his life back to the way it was. With a positive energy, Rick goes to the hospital to see his mom. Upon reaching his mother, Rick bursts into tears and confesses everything to his mother and seeks her guidance. She, for once, does her job of being a mother and tells Rick to get his issues sorted out with everyone one by one. She also tells Rick to admit to his mistakes in order to correct them. After hearing all this, Rick gets motivated and feels like he can get his fallen life back to pieces. After this, Rick goes to the lawyer. He calls him and tells him that he seeks his help in order to get his friend out of jail. Since Rick did not have the fees to pay the lawyer hired him on a part-time job, which was to help him and assist his daily work-related tasks and perhaps run a little errands for him. The lawyer then goes to the police station and gets his friend bailed out from the jail. After this, Rick goes to the hospital again to pay a visit to his mom, where we come to know that Nina's doing a part-time job there. On the other hand, Rick goes to his mom and finally shows the courage to tell his mother to get divorced from his lousy and no good of a dad. He gives his mom a divorce paper and tells her to take the step to free herself from his father's useless existence. On his way out of his mother's room and the hospital, Nina chases after him till the main door. Nina comes to meet him. Rick first apologizes to her with a pure heart when she approaches him. Rick takes his time to unveil the chaotic life he was going through, and then he tells her all about what's in his heart. He tells her that, despite causing her a lot of trouble and many disappointments, he could really use one more chance with her in order to make things better again, for the two of them. Since Nina also started liking Rick a lot lately, she accepts his genuine apology and confesses her feelings to him in the end, and accepts his proposal, after which both kiss. With this, the movie ends. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the thumbnails on your screen, and don't forget to share your thoughts about today's video in the comments section.